what we're going to look at now that we've played with some chemicals and we've seen, sometimes we get a precipitate and sometimes we don't, we're going to see if we can predict that, because in the achievement standard we're going to do, that's one of the skills that will help us pass, is to be able to say, yes, it will be a precipitate and why, or no, there won't be a precipitate and why. The nice thing is we give you a little table that gives you some rules that you can use. So, for example, it says that all chlorides are soluble, so they won't make precipitates, except for silver chloride, and I can't remember the other one that we've got in our lot, but it tells you the two that it doesn't. What we're going to look at today is how we can actually look at the names of the chemicals on the bottles, or in our tables, to work out if what's being made first. Once we know what's being made, we have to decide if they are soluble or not. If they're not soluble, the products, we're making a precipitate. So the one that I gave you, as it were, was sodium carbonate plus silver nitrate. And I'll write it up again here, but I'm going to write it a slightly different way. I'm going to put the positive ions at the top and the bottom, and negative ions or anions at the bottom. So the first chemical I gave you was sodium carbonate. And in your assessment, you're allowed to write them like this, okay? Because it might make it easier for you. We are going to add it, when we do the experiment, we're going to add it to silver nitrate. And again, notice I put the first name at the top and the second name at the bottom. We're going to see we're going to predict what it makes, and then predict if it's a precipitate or not. So I do my arrow. Remember, it's an arrow, not an equals for a chemical reaction. This is a word equation. And all I'm going to do is basically swap things over. I'm going to add that one to that one, and I'm going to add that one to that one. What's actually happening is that the two solutions have got sodium particles, silver particles, carbonate particles, and nitrate particles all mixed together. Okay, that's what's really happening. So if any of these can join together to make a solid, then we call it precipitation. If they can't join together to make a solid, then it's not. You've just got a mixture of all of these four ions. So I write those words down, those names down. So I've got the red one was sodium nitrate. Now, so all sodiums and all nitrates are soluble. So this is a rule that you'll have in a table, so you don't have to remember it. You're actually given this. It says all sodium salts are soluble. Okay, all of them. So automatically you can say, you can say that this is soluble. So that wouldn't cause a precipitate. That would not cause a precipitate. The other thing that's being made is going to be silver carbonate. Well, on our list of things, it says that all carbonates are insoluble, except for a couple of them. And silver is not one of those examples in our table. On your OneNote, you'll see that I've put that in the content library. So I've given that table that you'll be given in your content library. So if you want to, you could look at that now to see what I'm actually quoting from. And it says that all sodium salts are soluble. It says that all carbonates are insoluble except for sodium, potassium. That might actually be it for you guys for this year. So therefore, this one is insoluble. If I have two solutions together and I make something insoluble, what type of reaction do I call that? What type of reaction? It's on the board for you, kind of. Don't be afraid to get it wrong. What type of reactions are we learning about at the moment? Precipitate. Well done. So this is what we call a precipitate. So this type of reaction is called a precipitation reaction.